then comes the major surgery, the removal of the man and the formation of the woman. A woman born at the age of 24.
A new life is begun.
The body of the woman within begins to appear now. The world is shocked by a person who changed his sex. Thus, the strange case of Glen, who was Glenda, one and the same person, not half man, half woman, but nevertheless man and woman in the same body. He dares to enter the street dressed in the clothes he so much desires to wear. Glen is engaged to be married to Barbara. Glen's problem is a deep one, but he must tell her soon. She's begun to notice things. Soon she will realize. He learned that foreign doctors were doing marvelous work with a sex change. Man to woman, woman to man.
Say, did you read about the guy that had his sex changed to a girl? Says he was perfectly normal, too.
How can a guy be normal and go and do a thing like that to himself?
What about their children, Doctor? Would their children become the same way their father is?
Glenda has made the decision. If the newspapers had not gotten hold of the story, it would have gone untold, unnoticed as so many others in medical history. Why is the modern world shocked by this headline? Why?
Do you realize what would happen if every man in the country that wanted to wear women's clothes or felt like a woman went to their doctors and wanted a sex change?
Glen and all the hundreds of thousands of other Glens across the nation face quite a problem.
Drawing from the endless reaches of time, brings to light many startling things. Startling because they seem new, sudden. But most are not new to the science of the ages. with their own thoughts, their own ideas, all with their own personalities. One is wrong because he does right. And one is right because he does wrong. Pull the string. Dance to that. Which one is created for? A new life is begun. A life is ended.
Let me see that note.
The records will tell the story. I was put in jail recently. Why? Because I, a man, was caught on the street wearing women's clothing. This was my 4th arrest for the same act. In life, I must continue wearing them. Therefore, it would only be a matter of time until my next arrest. This is the only way. Let my body rest in death forever in the things I cannot wear in life.
Inspector Warren is here to see you, Dr. Alton.
Oh, yes. Show him in, Miss Stevens. Inspector?
Doctor?
Sit down.
Thank you. You're a very busy man, Dr. Alton, I know. I appreciate this time you're giving me.
Business or pleasure, Inspector?
In a way, business. From policeman to inspector. 20 years of it. I guess I've seen everything there is for a policeman to see. Yet I wonder if we ever stop learning. Learning about which we see. Trying to learn more about an ounce of prevention. I'm a man who thrives on learning. We only have one life to live. If we throw that one away, what is there left? Doctor, I'm hoping to learn something from you. And with that knowledge, maybe save some human from a fate which I just witnessed a few days ago. A 4-time loser. This type of case comes to me as well as yourself many times during the course of 1 month.
The suicide?
The suicide.
Most of us have our idiosyncrasies.
This fellow's was quite pronounced.
Yes, but I wonder if it rated the death warrant it received. I don't think so.
Well, that's why I'm here today, Doctor. What do we do about it?
I've always heard you to be a hard-hearted policeman, Inspector.
Isn't that what's thought of most policemen? The laws are written. The policeman is hired to see that those laws are enforced. We have a job to do. As in most jobs, there's always somebody who doesn't want that job to be done. In most factories today, the employer has put up suggestion boxes. Even the employer needs advice once in a while. I think in the case that we're referring to, I need advice. Maybe it shouldn't have happened as it did, but it did. Perhaps the next time we can prevent it.
Let's get our story straight. You're referring to the suicide of the transvestite?
If that's the word you men of medical science use for a man who wears woman's clothing, yes.
Yes, in cold, technical language, that's the word. As unfriendly and as vicious as it may sound. However, in actuality, it's not an unfriendly word, nor is it vicious when you know the people to whom it pertains.
Would the sex operation do these people any good? I understand you were quite prominent in a case that hit the headlines a few weeks ago.
In some cases, yes. Others, no.
Well, the papers certainly had a field day with that one.
Strange as it may seem, even though it was a field day, as you so aptly put it, it's not a new story. Sex change has been performed many times. Those whose sex can be changed, they're the easy ones. But what of those who so desperately want to be of the opposite sex, yet can't change their sex? Such as was the case with Patricia, the suicide.
I'd like to understand this, Doctor, as best you can tell me.
You can only fully understand the sex change by taking two entirely different cases. Two men with exactly the same background, from childhood to manhood and on to their own decisions and destinations.
I'd like to hear the story to the fullest.
Only the infinity of the depths of a man's mind can really tell the story.
Of the All-Wise. No one can really tell the story. Mistakes are made. But there is no mistaking the thoughts in a man's mind. The story is begun.
One might say, there, but for the grace of God, go I. Why is the modern world shocked by this headline? Why? Once, not so very long ago, the people of the world were saying,
airplanes. Why, it's against the Creator's will. If the Creator wanted us to fly, he'd have given us wings.
but we fly. Maybe some of you may still remember an even sillier remark.
Automobiles? Bad. They scare the horses. If the Creator had meant for us to roll around the countryside, we'd have been born with wheels.
Silly? Certainly. We were not born with wings. We were not born with wheels. But in the modern world of today, it's an accepted fact that we must have them. So we have corrected that which nature has not given us. Strangely enough, nature has given us all these things. We just had to learn how to put nature's elements together for our use, that's all. Yet, the world is shocked by a sex change.
If the Creator had wanted us to fly, he'd have given us wings.
If the Creator had meant us to roll around the countryside, we'd have been born with wheels.
If the Creator had meant us to be boys, we certainly would have been born boys.
If the Creator had meant us to be born girls, we certainly would have been born girls.
Are we sure? Nature makes mistakes. It's proven every day. This person is a transvestite, a man who is more comfortable wearing girls' clothes. The term transvestite is the name given by medical science to those persons who wear the clothing of the opposite sex. Many a transvestite actually wishes to be the opposite sex. The title of this can only be labeled Behind Locked Doors. Give this man satin undies, a dress, a sweater, and a skirt, or even the lounging outfit he has on, and he's the happiest individual in the world. He can work better, think better, he can play better, and he can be more of a credit to his community and his government because he is happy. These things are his comfort. But why the wig and makeup? He dares to enter the street dressed in the clothes he so much desires to wear, but only if he really appears female. The long hair, the makeup, the clothing, the actual contours of a girl. Most transvestites do not want to change their life, their bodies. Many of them simply want to change the clothing they wear to that is worn by the opposite sex. Glen is engaged to be married to Barbara, a lovely, intelligent girl.
Those fingernails have got to go.
You know, I didn't realize they're as long as they are.
My goodness, they're almost as long as mine. Maybe even prettier. We'll have to paint them sometime just for the fun of it.
We'll trim them.
That's for sure.
You know, honey, you've invited me to dinner so many times in the last couple of months. It's almost like we're married already.
I wish we were, darling. It's been a long year.
For both of us.
But now, my studies are through, college is concluded, and I'm free at last.
Free? For the time being.
Huh? Oh. How about joining me for an after-dinner drink?
The living room?
Mm-hmm.
Modern man is a hard-working human. Throughout the day, his mind and his muscles are busy at building the modern world and its business administration. His clothing is rough, coarse, starched, according to the specifications of his accepted job. At home, what does modern man have to look forward to for his body comfort? The things provided for his home, a wool or flannel robe, his feet encased in the same thick, tight-fitting leather that his shoes are made of. These are the things provided for his home comfort. It doesn't look so comfortable, does it? And get the hat. Better still, get the receding hairline. Men's hats are so tight they cut off the blood flow to the head, thus cutting off the growth of hair. 7 out of 10 men wear a hat, so the advertisements say. 7 out of 10 men are bald. But what about the ladies? Yes, modern woman is a hard-working individual also, but when modern woman's day of work is done, that which is designed for her home comfort is comfort. Hats that give no obstruction to the blood flow. Hats that do not crush the hair. Interesting thought, isn't it? Just for comparison, let's go native. Back to the animal instinct. There, in the lesser civilized part of the world, it's the male who adorns himself with the fancy objects, such as paints, frills, and masks. The true instinct, the animal instinct, bird and animal life. Is it not so that it's the male who is the fancy one? Could it be that the male was meant to attract the attention of the female? What's so wrong about that? Where is the animal instinct in modern civilization? Female has the fluff and the finery, as specified by those who design and sell. Little Miss Female, you should feel quite proud of the situation. You, of course, realize that it's predominantly men who design your clothes, your jewelry, your makeup, your hairstyling, your perfume. But life, even though its changes are slow, moves on. There's no law against wearing such apparel on the street, as long as it can be distinguished that man is man and woman is woman. But what is it that would happen were this individual to appear this way on the street? You're doing it now, laughing. Yet, it's not a situation to be laughed at. Thus, the strange case of Glen, who was Glenda, one and the same person, not half man, half woman, but nevertheless, man and woman in the same body, even though by all outward appearances, Glen is fully and completely a man.
Sister, let me borrow her dress.
You want to borrow your sister's dress? What for?
I want to wear it to the Halloween party.
There are names for boys who go around wearing girls' clothes.
Oh, don't be silly, darling. You go ahead and wear your sister's dress, Glen. You always did look much better as a girl than you do as a man.
Glen did wear the dress to the Halloween party. He even took first prize. Then one day it wasn't Halloween any longer.
I wish I had the sight into such things to be able to advise you, Sheila. Maybe if you took the problem to a doctor.
It's Glen that needs the doctor. But when things like this go wrong with someone so close and in your own family, it's so hard to believe.
It's not really hard to believe. It's just hard for you to accept.
Well, of course it's hard for me to accept. Suppose I were to come home with Roy or one of my other boyfriends some night and find Glen like I did last night.
Yeah, that would be hard to explain.
That's the understatement of the year. Just how does one go about introducing your friends to your brother when brother's wearing your best sweater and your skirt and makeup to boot?
Glen is not a homosexual. Glen is a transvestite, but he is not a homosexual. Transvestism is the term given by medical science to those persons who desperately wish to wear the clothing of the opposite sex, yet whose sex life in all instances remains quite normal. Would you be surprised to know that this rough, tough individual was wearing pink satin undies under his rough exterior clothing? He is. Then there is your friend the milkman, who knows how to find comfort at home.
I can't stand it any longer. He wears all my clothes. Nothing is sacred to him, even my briefs. He has every one of my sweaters stretched out of shape. Of course, he has always replaced them. But then, they didn't last long either. But, Your Honor, ruffles on his shirts and shorts. Really?
Glen and all the hundreds of thousands of other Glens across the nation face quite a problem. Glen is engaged to be married to Barbara, a lovely, intelligent girl. The problem? Glenda, Glen's other self. The girl that he himself is, his other individual personality.
You look tired tonight, Glen.
Yeah, I guess I am. It's been a long day.
Have you seen the paper yet?
No, why?
It's headlines. A man had his sex changed to a woman. Isn't that a strange case? I wonder how some people's mind works.
Well, some people aren't happy the way they are.
I suppose so, but to change one's sex, that's a pretty drastic step to take.
If it's the only way, I'm for it.
I wonder what I would do in a case like that, if I were in the mental turmoil that person went through. Or if I suddenly realized that something was mentally wrong with you. It's hard to visualize. Here we are, two perfectly normal people, got to be married and lead a normal life together. And there's this poor fellow who never could have been happy if it wasn't for modern medical science. Our fourth term in psychology explains a lot of the facts, but I'm afraid the end of study is only the beginning of reality.
Glen's problem is a deep one, but he must tell her soon. She's begun to notice things. His nails, his eyes when he looks into a ladies' store window. So many of the little things that are hard to hide. Soon she will realize. Then there was the time Barbara was wearing the sweater Glen had always wanted to feel on his own body. It was becoming an obsession to him. He must have it.
What's the matter, Glen, darling?
I guess I was daydreaming.
Something seems to be troubling you. Why don't you tell me?
It's nothing.
Once, long ago, just after we started going steady together, we promised we'd never lie to each other. Are we going to start now, just because we're engaged to be married?
It's just that... Oh, Barbara, it's nothing. That little sleep won't cure. It's been an awful long day.
It's more than that. Come on, tell me, darling. Who knows? Maybe I can help.
That's just it. You could.
Then something is troubling you.
Yes.
Do I have a right to know?
You have a right to know. But let's just say for the moment that I'm afraid to tell you. I'm afraid I'd lose you.
Nothing could be as bad as all that. I love you, and you love me. And nothing in the world can change that.
I hope not. I really hope not.
Glen, is it another woman?
Must be told.
Always the same. He's not had the nerve to tell her. But he must soon come to some conclusion or forget the marriage. Should he tell Barbara of his Glenda now, before the wedding, or hit her between the eyes with it after, when it might be too late for either of them? The world is a strange place to live in. All those cars, all going someplace, all carrying humans which are carrying out their lives. The world is shocked by a person who changed his sex. Glenda is shocked also, but by another reason. Someone like her had the nerve to do something factual about their situation. There's so many problems for Glen and all the other Glens. Perhaps the fear of discovery of the underthings they wear beneath their regular outer clothing, or that which they wear during their nightly visit to Morpheus, god of sleep.
Thank you very much, and I'm sure she's going to enjoy it very much. If you want to return it, be sure that you bring the sales slip. Thank you. Can I help you, sir?
Yeah. Let me see a 90.
Well, what size?
12.
The color, the material?
Black? I'm very sure.
Just a minute. Well, we have this here. Would you like that? Something like this? As lace?
Yeah.
Perhaps he admires the material too long.
You can see how sheer this material really is.
Yes.
You see, it's all pure nylon and only $21.95. And, of course, it will never snag.
But Glen and Glenda and all the Glens and Glendas have an even bigger problem. The homosexual, it is true, at times does adopt the clothing or the makeup of a woman to lure members of his own sex. But this is not so for the transvestite. The transvestite is not interested in those of their own sex. The clothing is not worn to attract the attention of their own sex, but to eliminate themselves from being a member of that sex.
Hi, Joe.
Hiya, Jack.
Monday again.
You know, I think Monday is about the worst day of the week. A perfectly wonderful weekend, then back to the sweatshops.
Too bad we was born to work. Say, did you read about the guy that had his sex changed to a girl?
Says he was perfectly normal, too.
How can a guy be normal and go and do a thing like that to himself?
All the same, it must take a lot of guts to pull a stunt like that.
That's a problem I don't ever intend to face.
Maybe it's a problem we should all face.
I don't get you.
Just think of the unhappy life. The miserable time this world of ours must have given that poor guy.
I still don't get you.
Now, here is a guy who wanted to be a girl. Supposing there had been no way to change his sex.
You sound as if you're really head up on this thing.
I guess I am.
Do you realize what would happen if every man in the country that wanted to wear women's clothes or felt like a woman went to their doctors and wanted a sex change?
Of course. That's why I say perhaps society should be a little bit more lenient with them. Maybe society should try to understand them as human beings.
Another day done. Thank goodness. See you tomorrow, Jack.
Yeah. So long, Joe. Until tomorrow.
Hi, Glen.
Hi, Johnny.
Come on in and hit it right for the kitchen. I can't let that dinner burn. You know, I thought I was going to have to eat alone tonight.
Well, you probably will because I've already eaten.
What's up?
Nothing much.
Say, you really look down in the dumps.
I guess I got a problem.
Haven't we all?
I mean a real problem, one like I've never had to face before.
Our whole existence is one big problem after another.
I want to get married.
You have a problem. When did this all come about?
For nearly a year, I've been engaged to a very wonderful girl. Now the time is getting very close to the man with the book. I'm scared to death.
You love her?
Very much.
Does she love you?
Yes.
There's no problem. Marry the girl.
Are you forgetting about my other self?
You'll have to tell her, of course.
Yeah. I have to tell her. But when? Before? Or after?
I think you know the answer to that one yourself.
My mind's in a muddle. Like in a thick fog. I can't make sense to myself sometimes. I thought I could stop wearing these things. I tried, honestly, I tried. I haven't had a stitch of them on for nearly 2 weeks until tonight. Then I couldn't stand it anymore. I had to put them on or go out of my mind. I'm afraid I'll lose her. I don't want that to happen because I really love her.
Okay. Here's a story from fact.
Johnny tells his story. He had not too long ago been married himself. He had kept quiet about his transvestite desires in the hopes that the new wife would never discover it. However, one day, the little woman came home unexpectedly an hour early.
That marriage ended here. Will your problem be like mine? Most probably it will. Because the love hasn't been built up for such a thing. She, your wife, she will not have been taught enough about the problems to cope with it.
Glenda must now make her decision. Or forever forget the marriage to Barbara. Glenda should consult a competent psychiatrist, but then very few transvestites wish to change their strange desires. This is their life. To take it away from them might do as great a harm as taking away an arm or a leg, or life itself. Many even carry their transvestite desires to the grave with them.
We began our broadcast day today here at KTH with Sesame Street and Barney, programs that entertain and educate the children of the Bay Area. Then we went on to a concert by Pavarotti, a great program on the Hermitage in St. Petersburg, Russia, and a wonderful concert with the Masters with Mozart. The common denominator of all of them is that in the finest tradition of PBS, they are programs that celebrate the very highest points of our culture. And here we are with Ed Wood. And yes, this isn't it, but we absolutely delight in being here tonight. You know, there's something wrong with this picture, and I can't quite figure out what it is. Bill Malone, who is directing, can you help me with this, Bill? There's some... Oh, thank you. I feel so much better. My name's Rick Laurie, and I'm on the staff here at KTH. Delighted to be here with a great group of volunteers from Baycon 96, and with Victoria Hunter and George Sampson, and a wonderful group of technical volunteers and data entry volunteers, and we're all here for one express purpose, and that is to invite you and 29 others around the Bay Area who are just having a blast tonight watching Glen or Glenda, one of the great mysteries of our time, to come on board and be a supporting member of this public television station. We're going to have some fun tonight, but this is really serious business in raising the dollars that it takes to bring these programs to you. You know, if you're an aficionado of Sci-Fi Night, and this is about as sci-fi as it gets, all of these programs, virtually all of them, come exclusive of our PBS dues. These are programs that we go out and purchase especially for you. So make a pledge in any amount that you see fit. Set a value on this type of programming that you get every Sunday night here on KTH. We delight in bringing it to you. We want it to continue. We want to do the very best we can, find the very best programs we can. It can only happen if you get on board with your pledge of support. Make a pledge from from our 360 level down to our basic membership of 35. Use your check, your MasterCard, your Discover, American Express. You can do it by money order. We'll meet you with cash at the door, however you want to do it. But do be one of those 30 heroes that we welcome in this break, so we can continue to go out and find the very best in sci-fi for this great audience that we've had here on Sunday night. An audience that is famous throughout the PBS system. I should tell you, when I go to conferences and we talk about our Sunday night audience, people don't believe that we do it here, but I remind them that we are not from Dubuque. We are in the Bay Area, and there is a need for it and a desire for it, and we want to be a reflection of our community, so we're broadcasting these programs. If you can make a pledge tonight at the $10 a month level or $120, the program that is following Glen or Glenda, Look Back in Angora, with apologies to John Osborne, we would happily send along as our thank you to you at that $10 a month level. And if you can use your bank card, either your Visa, Discover, MasterCard, or American Express, at the $60 level or higher, we are going to send along a full year subscription, an additional gift to Time Magazine. Now, the newsstand price is almost $3, so you're going to save the price of that right off the bat with your membership. You're going to get Preview, our monthly program guide, a KTH member card, which will get you great discounts throughout the Bay Area. Most of all, you're going to get the enormous satisfaction of making this work here at KTH. 408-437-5400 or 1-800-225-5454. Either number will get you live into the KTH studios. Talk to one of our great volunteers from Baycon, but make that call now. Now, I'm joined in the studio by Victoria Hunter, who I think is going to be in living color. Take it away, Miss Vic.
Oh, am I? Somebody made a pledge and we're back in color, right? No, yes? Quick, make a pledge. Ah, somebody made a pledge. Here we are. Back in living color. Well, eclectic are us, that's for sure tonight. This has been some pretty amazing programming here, and where else? KTEH. This is where you find the most fun television on the dial. Now, I'm going to start off here with all 4 videos, but you might want to take notes because we've got a lot of combinations here, so you need to follow. All 4 of these videos you see in front of you. Look Back in Angora, the Ed Wood movie that was up for an Academy Award this last year with Johnny Depp in it. That's on there. A Night of the Ghouls with Elvira, and of course Plan 9 from Outer Space with the hubcap space saucers in there. All 4 for a pledge of $360. They can be yours to amaze and delight you for years to come. Now, if you would like to get 2 of them at the $180 level, we have these 2 right here on the end, Look Back at Angora, and also Ed Wood, the movie. These are available for a $180 pledge. You get both of these terrific videos. And follow me here. If you want to do them individually, look back at Angora or Ed Wood or the Elvira Night of the Ghouls. I say Elvira even though she wasn't really in the movie, but she introduces it, and who cares? As it says on the front, it's uncut and uninterrupted, and in her case, unzipped. And then Plan 9 from Outer Space, individually at a $120 level pledge. Any one of these can be yours. Now, as Rick said, we're having a lot of fun here tonight. This is certainly great programming to have a good time with, and we're all doing just that. But we are serious in the fact that if you would like to continue to have these kinds of eclectic programs come to you on Sunday evenings, and what a way to start the week, isn't it? Then you need to let us know. I mean, we talk many times about our audience being very, very specific and very, very elite. I think this particular audience is very elite indeed. So if you're sitting there and you are loving this as much as we are, and if you're getting out that Angora, then you need to go to the phone and make a pledge of support and say, we want to see more of this. And that we really don't care what level of pledge, what thank you gift, doesn't matter. What matters is you keep those little hubcap saucers flying. So while you go to your telephone, we're going to zip over to George Sampson.
Thanks, Victoria. Up here at the goal board, I can report we are a third of the way to where we need to be. We started out looking for 30 calls of support. I want to thank the 10 people who have made that call. We are still you and 19 others away, though, if we're going to achieve that goal. So let us hear from you now at 437-5400 or toll-free at 1-800-225-5454. I can't think of any other public television station in America that would devote an entire Sunday night to the films of Ed Wood. Such films they are. And stick with us, because coming up we have Look Back at Angora, the documentary that was produced about the life and times of Ed Wood, which will explain some of the questions that are probably coming up as you watch Glen or Glenda. Then later on tonight we have one of his really, really good / bad movies, Night of the Ghouls, I believe it's called. So stick around. We have a lot of good, we have a lot of movies coming up at 437-5400 or toll free at 1-800-225-54. Seriously, this is like Mystery Science Theater 2000, the kind of stuff that's so bad it's fun. It's just fun to watch, and I hope you're making lots and lots of comments as you're watching tonight, because you should hear what's going on here in the studio. Okay, I'm going to change the subject here and talk about the Psychotronic Film Encyclopedia. This is a thank you gift that we are offering at the level of $7.50 a month if you want to use that installment plan. And this is if you are an aficionado of the unusual film. This is the film guide for you. To give you an example, I'm just going to open it up because they do have a whole chapter on Glen or Glenda. And a lot of good information here. I don't think the audience is that interested in my tie, folks, but thank you. Anyways, you might want to know that this particular movie was released under several different titles. For example, it was released under I Led Two Lives, I Changed My Sex, He or She, and The Transvestite, which pretty much says it all. This goes on to talk about the life of Ed Wood, some of his other films, and this is a very good reference to have when you go to the video store, when you're looking for something just a little unusual and you want to know what it's about and if it's any good or not. Our way of saying thank you for your pledge at that $90 pledge level at 437-5400 or toll-free at 1-800-225-5454. And seriously, stick with us. We have a really fun night of programs scheduled for you tonight, all made possible by viewers who had times just like this called up and made that pledge of support. Let's hear from you. And while you head for the phone, here's Rick. Okay, thank you, George. And you just said the magic word, which is viewer support. And to get serious here for a second, we are halfway to our goal, and that is the good news. We just have a few minutes left before we get back into Glen and Glenda. And if you're wondering if you've just found us tonight, perhaps for the first time, or if you've been watching us for a while and haven't made that all-important membership phone call yet, here's what we are doing this evening. We are raising the dollars that makes it possible to broadcast these programs, the regular sci-fi block, every Sunday night here on KTEH. And quite frankly, it can't happen without member support. As we mentioned, virtually all of the programs that we air on our Sunday night sci-fi night come above and beyond our PBS dues. Those are programs that our program director, Karen Roberts, goes out and purchases with hard-earned member dollars that the people who have gone before you and have made an investment in this service. And quite frankly, if we get to tomorrow morning and we have fallen short of our goal around sci-fi programming, and this isn't a threat, this is an economic reality of public television, television, we are going to be hard-pressed, particularly when these are programs above and beyond the PBS dues, particularly when we are facing this year a $100,000 cut in federal funding to KTEH, and next year, which starts for us October 1st with fiscal year 97, a $250,000 cut from last year. And those were dollars that were already appropriated by Congress and then rescinded by the new group who is in Washington, D.C. They have made the case, and we're not arguing one way or the other about this, but the mandate is now that, yes, there is a place on the dial for public television, but the American public and the municipalities that support public television stations are going to have to be the ones who take up the slack from the federal dollars. We are going along with that edict, but it is going to have to take member support. So if you're sitting there enjoying the program and saying to yourself, they've gotten along fine without me and we don't need your pledge of support, please be dissuaded from that opinion. It could not be further from the truth. We are diminished by your pledge just that one bit, and if you take that logic and extend it to everyone who is watching, Sci-Fi Night will go away. We don't want that to happen, and you can ensure that Sci-Fi Night will stay here with your phone call. If you have called, thanks a lot. Back to Ed Wood.
We'd like to take this opportunity to thank the members of KTEH for supporting quality public television. This is KTEH San Jose, Channel 54.
Yes, it is a problem. But Glenda, remember back almost a year ago when Glen and Barbara accepted each other?
Okay. That's the 6th time you've said goodnight.
I guess it is. Look. Come on over here a minute.
What is it?
Never mind, just sit down.
Oh, I was beginning to think you'd never get around to it.
And you mean you will?
What do you think?
When?
I must finish college first. It's only 7 months to go.
Well, then that's hardly long enough for you to get a trousseau together.
How would you know about such things? Glen, what's the matter?
Huh?
All of a sudden, you seem 1,000 miles off.
Yes, I guess I was, huh? That's a mighty pretty dress you're wearing tonight.
I wear my best to please you.
You know, when you look at me, you just tie me in knots.
I love to tie you in knots. Oh, I'll be so happy when these next few months are over.
Some special reason?
Of course. So you can stop kissing me goodbye at the door every night.
Yes?
So you can hold me close to you always.
Yes?
Then all you'll have to do is call and close your eyes and feel my lips on yours.
Beware. Beware. Beware of the big green dragon that sits on your doorstep. He eats little boys. Puppy ducktails and big fat snails. Beware. Take care. Beware. me, dragon. Do you eat, little boy? Puppy duck tails and big, fat snails?
Puppy duck tail, puppy duck tail, puppy duck tail. Everything nice, everything nice. Ha, ha, ha. Puppy duck tail.
Beware of the big green dragon that sits on your doorstep. He eats little boys, puppy dog tails, and big fat nails. Beware, take care. Beware.
Glenda has made the decision. Glen has decided to tell Barbara of his dual personality. To tell her of the nighties and negligees, the sweaters and skirts, the robes and dresses, the stockings and the high-heeled shoes, the wig and the makeup. All that goes to make Glen into Glenda. He tells Barbara he cannot cheat her of the knowledge that she, as his fiancée, should possess. All the facts. He tells her softly, hurriedly at first, then slowly as he becomes more technical. His hands move to caress the smooth material of her Angora sweater, which he has so long and so desperately wanted to put on his own body. He tells of this to her, and she looks to the sweater and to his hand. Then, when it is all over and that much of the story he knows is told, Barbara is not sure of her own thoughts.
That's about it, darling.
I wanted to tell you for a long, long time, but just couldn't bring myself to do it. I've been too much afraid of losing you.
Understand this, but maybe together we can work it out.
Is that the end of the story?
Not quite. I'll get back to it in a minute. Glen's case is really the lesser advanced type cases. The second case is an extremely advanced one. However, I'll get to that in a moment. First, you must realize that the world over has its own particular problem. Each case must be handled individually according to the person, his past life, and his problem.
Did this Glen have any homosexual tendencies?
Absolutely not. It's very seldom that a true transvestite does.
And he isn't a hermaphrodite?
No more than he's a pseudo-hermaphrodite. Glen's case was entirely of his mind, brought on by the environment of his early youth.
What about their children, Doctor? Would their children become the same way their father is?
No. Transvestism is not hereditary.
Well, what makes these men want to wear girls' clothes?
Many things. But as I've said before, it usually starts in early childhood from one cause or another. Technically, each case has the same beginning, just a different set of circumstances.
Are any of them actually cured?
Oh, yes, many, many of them. Once the source of supply is found, it can be stopped, unless the patient refuses to cut off that source of supply.
Then the way I get it, this Glen and the character he created, much as an author creates a character in a book, was invented as a love object to take the place of the love he never received in his early youth through lack of it from his parents. The character was created and dressed and lives the life the author designs for him to live, and dies only when the author wants him to die.
Correct. Except that for the character Glenda to die, the elements must be right. But to enlighten you a little further, there's the second story, that of an extremely advanced case. Let's call this person Alan. Ann. Alan had a mother who wanted a little girl. The father didn't care much one way or the other. Alan did not enter the competitive sports that the other boys at the school did. However, he was an extremely studious boy and always had above average marks in his subjects. Yet sports, girls' sports, he always was interested in. But he was rejected by the girls and also rejected by the boys. It seems he belonged to neither of them. After school, Alan would go home to find the mother who had always wanted a girl, and the father who didn't care one way or the other. He enjoyed doing the woman's work around the house. Alan was becoming a woman and didn't realize it. A woman in mind only, but the mind rules. Then came the fateful year of 1941. Alan was drafted. He was accepted. In the Army, he successfully passed his vigorous training. Did not like it, and there were the weekends for his particular diversions. On his weekend passes, he would go to the nearest town where he had a suitcase checked in a public locker. In the suitcase, he had the things he loved to wear, that which made his body appear to be what his mind believed it was. Then the day of embarkation came. But wherever Alan went, the suitcase was sure to go. Then, as quickly as it had begun, the war was over. Alan came home. Alan had learned all the terms directed at men like himself, but no one had found out his aversion. He was honorably discharged from the service at the end of the war. He'd received the Silver Star and the Bronze Star for gallantry in action. While he was in an Army hospital recuperating from a wound he'd received in New Guinea, he learned a very interesting fact. He learned that foreign doctors were doing marvelous work with a sex change, man to woman, woman to man. Shortly after his separation from service, Alan came to me for advice. There followed many long sessions with my clinical reports and the reports of eminent doctors. It had been found that Alan was really a pseudo-hermaphrodite. A hermaphrodite is one who has the organs of both the male and female in plain sight. A pseudo-hermaphrodite is one who has one perfectly formed organ of either sex and one imperfectly formed one that's difficult to detect. Alan was of the latter. Alan was then given his choice. That which nature had given him was a mistake. It was up to us to correct that mistake one way or the other. Alan had to decide whether he wanted to become a man or she wanted to become a woman. Both were completely possible. Small boned, fair of complexion, his hair thin like a woman's, his body slim, hips slightly girlish. It was easy to see his decision. along with the fact that he had been brought up from early childhood to believe that a woman was the thing to be. Alan decided to become a woman. This, after all the help I could give him, was only the beginning. During the following 2 years, he was to go through the tortures of the damned. But never was there a whimper from him, because he knew that at the end of it all, he would at last be that which he had always dreamed. Hundreds of hormone shots were injected into various parts of his body. Alan's face was worked on with plastic surgery to smooth out the female elements. Long, tedious hours of work. The big day, or the starting of many big days, for it was to take many. A series of operations are performed slowly and at intervals to prevent any unnecessary shock to the nervous system. Still, the hormone shots continue, day after day, week after week, month after month. And even then, when the operation is over, the sex has changed, the shots must continue as long as Alan lives. First, the breasts are brought out. The body of the woman within begins to appear now. In time, Alan is Anne, a very happy, lovely young lady that modern medicine and science has created almost as a Frankenstein monster. The newspapers heard of it and hit the story with their usual fullness. Papers had not gotten hold of the story, it would have gone untold, unnoticed as so many others in medical history. The sex change has been performed hundreds of times. However, right here, in this particular sex switch, it's not the end. Acting the woman and being the woman are two entirely different things. Alan had all his life acted the part of the woman. Now he is that woman and must learn how it's done. Anne must learn how to do her own hair, how to make the correct styling for her facial contours. The proper walk must be adopted. A lady is a lady, whatever the case may be. Continuing my own psychiatric treatment, it was my duty now to explain to Anne the duty of a woman in her sex life. Alan, of course, had known the man's, but he was soon to realize he knew very little about a woman's. Yet, through it all, Anne loved every minute of it. Anne was indeed meant to be a woman, and now that the sex change had been completed, Anne was a very happy woman, and a woman who was eager to learn, and now was accepted by society. A woman born at the age of 24, in a world that for 24 years she had seen as a man, but a woman who now would, and was properly instructed in how to accept, a woman's world. Thus, this case, which has a happy ending, is due entirely to the corrections made by medical science. I have had several such cases. In fact, in my 20 years of practice, I've been prominent in 7. However, my colleagues have had hundreds.
Then you believe that the Glen of the first story should have the sex change?
In Glen's case, no. No, indeed. Glen would never be happy with a sex change.
The Alan of your story ended happy?
I'll tell it to you exactly as I told it to them. Shortly after Glen told Barbara of his love for girls' clothing, he started treatments with me. On the last treatment, both he and Barbara came to me. I told them the same story of Alan, and as I've told it to you, Inspector, Anne was a pseudo-hermaphrodite. Even though one of the sexes was imperfect, she had the organs and the characteristics of both the male and female. Glen's case is an entirely different type of case. Remember I said, no matter what the case, it's a different thing. A new problem to be looked into, then solved. A new challenge to the psychoanalysis. Glen's body holds only one sex, that of the male. In all our talks, I've learned these pertinent facts. Glen's father had no love for his son. His father wanted Glen to be a football hero or a baseball player so that he could brag to his cronies down at the corner saloon as his cronies bragged to him about their own sons. Thus, the ruse of Glen's fictitious character. He invented it when he could find no love from his mother and no love from his father. His mother had hated her own father. Glen reminded her of her father. Therefore, she gave all her affection, love, and attention to her daughter. Glen then decided also to become a daughter. Glen, you can kill this fictitious character of yours anytime you wish. For your happy ending, it's the only way.
Then you think I can kill this second character by transferring her qualities to Barbara?
Exactly. But as the author and his character, the elements must be right. It's up to you, Barbara. You must take the place, give the love, and accept the facts that Glenda has always accepted. If you love each other as you now believe you do, well, it'll be a hard job, but you'll enjoy doing the job.
Should I let him continue to wear girls' clothing? Or should I put my foot down?
If you put your foot down, you'd only go behind closed doors. Love is the only answer. Glenda must be transferred to you.
Supposing Glen never gets over wearing girls' clothing.
Would it matter to you very much?
I love Glen. I'll do everything I can to make him happy.
The beginning. Time passes. Soon, due to a happily married life, the remembrance of the psychiatric treatments, and Barbara's love and understanding, Glenda begins to disappear forever from Glen. Glen has found his mother, his little sister, his wife, and his Glenda, all in one lovely package. Thus, Glen's case has a happy conclusion. Therefore, 2 entirely different cases, handled in 2 entirely different ways, have a happy ending.
Yeah, those 2. But what of the hundreds of other less fortunate Glens the world over?
Of the others. Less fortunate Glens, the world over. Oh, snips and snails and puppy ducktails.
Look Back in Angora is on next. That's another film from Ed Wood, judged by one of the worst filmmakers by some critics for his films back in the 1950s. My name is Rick Laurie. I'm on the staff here at KTH, and we're going to tell you the true skinny here. We've had just as many calls of support as we have calls of people objecting to what we've had on the air this evening. And to the people who have been offended or anything about what we've aired, I will apologize not for what we've aired tonight, because we are trying to broadcast to the widest spectrum of audience we can here, and we hit the envelope a couple of times. And I would just suggest, if you are offended by the material that's on tonight, that just kindly turn it off and watch something else on your television dial. If you are appreciating the program, if you are appreciating us taking some chances tonight, showing some programs that are perhaps stretching the envelope a little bit, then I hope you're one of the 30 people who get on board with a call of support by calling one of those numbers on the screen. We ask you to set a value of any amount that you see fit. Again, this is a tongue-in-cheek look at a filmmaker who was reviled so much during the 1950s and 60s when he was making his films that they have become sort of a cult classics, and that they are so bad you have to laugh at them, and the entertainment value comes from it. We realize it is not for everyone, but if you do appreciate what we're trying to do this evening, I hope you're one of those 30 people that get on board. Make a pledge in any amount that you see fit. We have suggested levels that range from $30 a month down to our basic membership of $35. You can make your pledge by check, by money order. If you can do it by credit card, that'll be great, because we save a few dollars in the bargain. And a pledge at the $5 a month level or higher, we're going to pass those savings on to you with a full year's subscription to Time Magazine. That is in addition to whatever thank you gift you choose. Whatever you choose is up to you. That is a personal choice, but we do ask, if you want to see Sci-Fi Night continue on Sunday night here on KTH, and give us the financial wherewithal to find the very best films of sci-fi in the marketplace, to be one of those 30 people that get on board. We fell considerably short. I must tell you, in our opening break around this tonight, public television has been a noble experiment going into the 40th year now, and we are going to keep continuing. We want to be a reflection of our community. So if you've been watching the program tonight and don't want to see it on, by all means, don't make a pledge. But if you'd like to see more sci-fi on Sunday night here on KTH, be one of those 30 people. We have a great thank you gift at the $10 a month level. Martin Landau won an Academy Award for Best Supporting Actor in this, and Johnny Depp was played Ed Wood in it. And Ed Wood, we would be happy to send along this film, directed by Tim Burton, from the original Batman, and great filmmaker. That is yours at the $10 a month level. And if you can put that pledge on your bank card, either your Visa, Discover, MasterCard, American Express, we have an additional thank you gift, that full year subscription to Time Magazine. You see the numbers on your screen. Use that toll-free number, 1-800-225-5454, or in our local area, the number is 437-5400. Now I'm going to kick it over to my good friend Victoria Hunter. She's going to show you some more of our great thank you gifts. Victoria.
Thank you very much, Rick. You know, Ed Wood really got a look-see most recently with the movie that Rick was just showing you here about Ed Wood with Johnny Depp and Martin Landau. He won the Academy Award for it. And all of a sudden, sort of the very low-grade, make the movie in your garage type of movie that Ed Wood used to make became very much a cult classics and very much in vogue. And certainly a lot of people find them most entertaining. It certainly proves that if you want to make a movie, you can do it on a $1.98 budget, pretty much, which is what he did. And that really sort of set off a lot of interest in Ed Wood. Now, tonight, our thank you gifts include not only the movie, we'll start off here with sort of everything you see on the table here, and inclusive in that is the Ed Wood movie with Johnny Depp right here. And then this, Look Back at Angora, is actually a documentary about Ed Wood that's narrated by Gary Owens, you remember from Laugh-In. And then one of Ed Wood's movies, Night of the Ghouls. And then, of course, the one he's very much famous for, other than Glen and Glenda, is Plan 9 of Outer Space. For all the sci-fi fans, this is where we have actual spaceships made out of hubcaps and things like that. And as I said, these movies have become really cult classics because a lot of people feel that they're so bad they're good. In any case, this is at a $360 level pledge, all of these. And for a $180 level pledge, you can have these two over here on the left, which is the Ed Wood movie that was recently made, and then the documentary Look Back in Angora. Now, any of these can, of course, course, come to you for a pledge of $120, which is, of course, simply $10 a month. We do very eclectic things on this station, and if you're sitting there appreciating that and wanting to maintain Sci-Fi Night and wanting us to reach out and stretch those envelope edges a bit, then give us a call and let us know and make a pledge of support, and we'll continue to try to find things that you would like to see. But this is public television, this is interactive television, and we will program what you support. So while you make that phone call, we're going to go over to our goal board with George Sampson.
Thanks, Victoria. I can tell you so far we are now just 12 pledges away of our goal of 30 calls of support during this pledge message. Want to thank everyone who has called, and if you're headed for the telephone, don't stop now, because your pledge could be the one that puts us over the top, so to speak. So let us hear from you right now at 437-5400 or toll free at 1-800-225-5454. You know, at the beginning of this pledge message, my friend and colleague Rick Laurie talked about some of the negative calls that came in. Well, I'll tell you what, tonight is really no exception, because every time we have Sunday Science Fiction Night, there is somebody who's going to let us know that they don't think that a public television station ought to have a science fiction night. Well, fortunately, there are enough other people out there who are saying, wait a minute, we want science fiction, and we want what Channel 54 gives us each and every Sunday night. That's why we call and we pledge. Well, if that's you, if you think that we ought to continue with our Sunday night efforts, bringing you science fiction programs that, for the most part, you're just not ever going to find anyplace else, you have to vote with your telephone, and we're asking that you do so right now at 437-5400 or toll free at 1-800-225-5454. Coming up next, we have that documentary about the life and times of Ed Wood, Look Back in Angora, and as you watch it, you're going to recognize a lot of the scenes that were lifted from Glen or Glenda and cut together into this new documentary. It's really a masterpiece of editing. You're really going to enjoy it. So stick around for that, and then after that, Night of the Ghouls, and then we have some Doctor Who later on after that. So a lot of good stuff still coming to you. But right now, we're taking time out to hear from you. Now, if we can hear from you at the $90 pledge level, I want to show you what we'd be very happy to send you. This is the Psychotronic Film Encyclopedia, the complete viewer's guide to the weirdest movies of all time. And we are talking weird here. Every weird, oddball, offbeat movie you can ever think of is going to be listed here. You're going to find out what the movie's about, who was in it, when it was made, all sorts of production details. Scott Appel uses this a lot for his Sunday night video reviews, and if you are a film aficionado, we highly recommend it. Our way of saying thank you for that pledge of $7.50 a month, and if you put that pledge on your credit card, Visa Card, Master, Discover, or American Express, in addition to whichever other thank you gift you request at $60 or higher, we will also send you a one-year subscription to Time magazine. The folks at Time wanted to show their support for public television, so they made these subscriptions available to people who become members, and we'd like to pass that on to you if you'll call and make that pledge. So let us hear from you now. 437-5400 or toll free at 1-800-225-5454. And Rick is telling me we're 3 away, so I'm going to go count pledges while we go back down to Rick. Rick?
Okay, thanks, George. We've just got a few seconds left. Thank you if you're one of the 27 people who's called in. Again, we are stretching the envelope here in public television, and quite frankly, if we pleased everybody, we'd be doing something wrong. If you don't like the program, by all means, turn it off. We're going to go in to Look Back in Angora, again, with apologies to John Osborne, one of the cult classics from Ed Wood back in the 1950s. It is a documentary, kind of tongue-in-cheek, and we hope you enjoy it. For those of you who have made a call, again, we cannot thank you enough for understanding the concept of what we are trying to do here. We're trying to push the envelope, particularly around our Sci-Fi Night. We are acutely aware that we are not the only public television station in the Bay Area right now, and what we are trying to do, because it would suit nobody's purpose, particularly yours as our viewer, to duplicate programming for what KQED is doing or KCSM is doing. So we're trying to do something a little different here. If you appreciate the efforts, I hope you get on board with your call of support. We've just got a few seconds left before we go back into Look Back in Angora. If you have called, we can't, again, thank you enough for understanding what we're trying to do here. If not, we'll wait right here by the phone to take your call. Let's go on to Look Back in Angora. Enjoy.
Our thanks to the members of viewer-supported KTEH Channel 54. And thanks also to our phone volunteers from Baycon 96 for joining us and welcoming you as a new member.
nobody gave a darn about Eddie, you know, when he was alive, and even less when he died, and all of a sudden...
I am Criswell. For years I have told the almost unbelievable, related the unreal, and showed it to be more than a fact. Now I tell a tale of the threshold people, so astounding that some of you may faint. This is a story of those in the twilight time, once human, now monsters, in a void between the living and the dead. Monsters to be pitied, monsters to be despised. The ghouls reborn from the innermost depths of the world.
Of all the threshold people who labored in the twilight time of low-budget exploitation, one name stands out: Edward D. Wood, Jr. Eddie Wood made movies about monsters, crime, sex, and violence, all on non-existent budgets, but always with poetically bizarre dialogue. Microphone reflections, continuity errors, and weirdly mismatched stock footage gave his films the mind-bendingly unreal air of a bad dream. Then as now, a lot of people dismiss his films as low-budget trash.
So what?
In fact, his Plan 9 from Outer Space is widely considered one of the worst films ever made.
That's the understatement of the year.
But all of his films are hysterically serious and madly autobiographical.
One is always considered mad. One discovers something that others cannot grasp.
Ed Wood made movies like nobody else. They're cheap, poorly acted, ineptly assembled, but never dull. Like a car wreck, they're grotesquely fascinating, with a movie consistency, a magical individual resonance. Wood's films have become true cult classics, triumphs over all obstacles, including his own singular lack of ability. And the facts of Ed's own life were as tragic, dramatic, wild, and ironic as any he dreamed for the screen.
Strange sort of bird.
Entrepreneur, loyal friend, playboy, satyr, alcoholic, pornographer, and a transvestite with a fetish for Angora.
Sounds like a man I'd like to meet. You probably will.
He died alone, rejected by the business that he loved.
Most of us have our idiosyncrasies. This fellow's was quite pronounced. Yes, but I wonder if it rated the death warrant it received.
His wife of 20 years, a fellow Marine, a low-budget producer, a loyal friend, and his leading lady will help tell the story.
I'd like to hear the story to the fullest. Only the infinity of the depths of a man's mind can really tell the story.
But this is Ed Wood's own story, in his voice, and in the voices of the characters from the infinite depths of his mind.
No one can really tell the story. Mistakes are made. But there is no mistaking the thoughts in a man's mind.
The new life is begun.
No child is inherently bad. Adults create the world children live in. And in this process, parents play the key role.
Glen's father had no love for his son. His father wanted Glen to be a football hero or a baseball player so that he could brag to his cronies down at the corner saloon as his cronies bragged to him about their own sons.
The sins of the father?
You leave my father out of this. That plus the lack of a mother's attention.
After school, Ellen would go home to find the mother who had always wanted a girl and the father who didn't care one way or the other.
Little Eddie Wood, his parents called him Junior, took sanctuary in the cinema, a fantasy dream world where good and bad were clearly defined. Even more than his cowboys, he loved his monsters, Dracula, the Wolfman, the Mummy. He was drawn to play acting, making amateur movies, and wearing costumes.
You want to borrow your sister's dress? What for?
I want to wear it to the Halloween party.
There are names for boys who go around wearing girls' clothes.
Oh, don't be silly, darling. You go ahead and wear your sister's dress, Glen. You always did look much better as a girl than you do as a man.
Glen did wear the dress to the Halloween party. He even took first prize. Then one day it wasn't Halloween any longer.
Eddie Wood invented a female persona for himself. He called himself Shirley.
And the way I get it, this character he created, much as an author creates a character in a book, was invented as a love object to take the place of the love he never received in his early youth through lack of it from his parents.
Well, what are you trying to do, psychoanalyze me?
I don't think he ever did tell me why, you know. He liked the softness of certain fabrics.
Then came the fateful year of 1941. He successfully passed his vigorous training. Did not like it, but then there were the weekends for his particular diversions. Then the day of embarkation came.
He was in Maine, he was decorated, he was in Tarawa. 4,000 boys went in and 300 came out. He was one of the 300. But underneath his battle fatigues, he wore a red bra and red panties. And he always told me that he hoped that he was killed. He didn't want to be wounded because he could never explain the red panties and the bra.
Then, as quickly as it had begun, the war was over. He was honorably discharged from the service at the end of the war. He'd received the Silver Star and the Bronze Star for gallantry in action. While he was in an army hospital recuperating from a wound he had received in New Guinea, he learned a very interesting fact.
The fact was that the GI Bill could put him through school. Ed studied art and drama, joined a traveling carnival, and headed west to make movies.
Ah, the curiosity of youth. On the road to ruin, may it ever be so adventurous.
Ed Wood wanted to be part of the Hollywood dream. In 1947, he sought work as a writer, director, or actor.
Considering when a guy came to Hollywood, didn't know a soul, he wanted to get into the picture business, and how many millions of people come to Hollywood, he was going to be another Orson Welles.
He was looking for actresses, and I took my girlfriend, Mona McKinnon, who later did Plan 9 from Outer Space. I told him how handsome he was. And before the interview was over, he told me he was going to make me a star. The old line. We were living together, and it was scandalous at the time, but he told everybody that we were married. At first, anyway, the first year, he always hid the fact that he liked to cross-dress.
I had a very big bar, big one, called Surf Grill. And the next thing I know, he comes in, and he's Shirley. I enjoyed him. He's very, very funny, but kind of shocking.
Well, it was strange at first, because like I said, I was very naive. I didn't know that much about these things. Young guy at 17.
And then he would ask to borrow my Angora sweater. And, you know, I said, well, why? And he says, well, I'm getting into this woman's part, and it makes the juices flow. I had another inkling when I was missing some of my soft undies. Where did they go? How did they disappear?
He wrote and directed a play based on his war experiences. It flopped miserably. But he did find work at Universal Studios in the scheduling department. But he wanted to put his own dreams on film. His chance came in 1953. Producer George Weiss conceived a film to cash in on the Christine Jorgensen story, a man who had his sex surgically changed to female. But as writer and director, Ed turned the movie into the ultimate in self-expression. Glen or Glenda?
Give this man satin undies, a dress, a sweater, and a skirt, or even the lounging outfit he has on, and he's the happiest individual in the world. He can work better, think better, he can play better, and he can be more of a credit to his community and his government because he is happy. Glen is a transvestite, but he is not a homosexual. Transvestism is the term given by medical science to those persons who desperately wish to wear the clothing of the opposite sex, yet whose sex life in all instances remains quite normal.
Ed also starred under the name Daniel Davis. Davis was his middle name, but he wanted something more for his film, a star to give it credibility.
Say, why don't you try to get that actor, Bela Lugosi? It's right up his alley.
Lugosi was old, addicted to painkillers, and considered a has-been by Hollywood. Awestruck, Ed approached his idol with an offer of $500. Lugosi passed. Bela's wife, Lillian, changed his mind. They needed the cash. So for $1,000, Bela spent a day playing an ambivalent spirit in an armchair, spouting intense and baffling metaphors. Only Ed Wood would have dared cast Dracula as God.
People, all going somewhere. All with their own thoughts, their own ideas. All with their own personalities.
This surreal juxtaposition of stock footage, compassion, exploitation, and metaphysics was too weird for mainstream, way too mild for burlesque theaters. It bombed. Undaunted, Ed tried again. He'd always loved westerns as a little boy, and television was gobbling new material like crazy. B-movie western stars like Roy Rogers, Gene Autry, and Hopalong Cassidy had found new audiences on TV. Ed shot a 16-millimeter pilot show for a series to be called Crossroads Avenger. He cast the film with his childhood favorites, Old Bud Osborne, scowling Kenny Duncan, Tom Tyler, who had also played Captain Marvel and the Mummy, and Tom Keene.
One move and you've done your last killing.
What's your name, mister?
Duke? Duke Smith?
A lot of Dukes around lately. Funny thing is, they all seem to end in Smith.
Duke Smith is good enough for the time being.
Sure, Tom Tyler's arthritis made gunplay a little awkward, but the film wasn't much worse than the B-westerns of Eddie's childhood. The problem was, this was 1953, not 1933.
You're a pretty smart deputy.
Sheriff now.
That's right, and you're going to be a smart one, too. Well, I got to be hitting the trail again.
Eddie told friends that the TV network passed on the show in favor of Wild Bill Hickok. This was a diplomatic way of putting it. Instead, he was hired to direct and co-write Jailbait, a crime thriller with a twist ending involving plastic surgery and mistaken identities. It was foolish to try to make a good movie on the ridiculously low budget.
23 grand. That's how much of a fool I am.
Hello, Miss Gregor.
Oh, Lieutenant Lawrence.
He had been Mr. Universe and Mr. America.
Well, do you mind if I stop in a minute?
When it came to the KETH, he didn't react to me. And I was prepared to kind of meld into it and give it all I had, and he didn't return anything. So I just thought, gee, it'd been a lot better if he'd helped.
When Lugosi fell ill, the part of the plastic surgeon was filled by silent movie star Herbert Rawlinson, himself suffering from lung cancer.
You know, I had to perform a very difficult operation this morning, the victim of an automobile accident. You know that I had to remodel that patient's entire face, and it was strenuous and very, very complicated. Plastic surgery at times seems to me to be very, very complicated.
The morning after he finished his scenes, Rawlinson died. Even with 2 features to his credit, Ed remained outside looking in. He talked portrait photographer Ted Allen into a partnership to make a horror film with Lugosi. Allen lit the sets like Cabinet of Dr. Caligari, but the money ran out in just 3 days.
Eddie was never good at raising money for his pictures. We were introduced